Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we're here today to talk about another week of Big Brother 27, as well as catch up on the Challenge 41. It's been a few weeks since we talked about that, so we decided to do a little catch up on the most recent episode of that as well. So, a lot to get to with Big Brother in particular. So, Molly, you want to get started with that?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, we pick up after Rachel nominated Vince, Mickey, and Morgan for eviction. Kelly hugs Mickey and says, "Welcome to the party," which this is a comment that really didn't think much about in the moment, and but until Mickey thought that that was a slight against her. And she also vents about Rachel to Ava, Will, and Ashley, who are all a bit confused why Mickey is pretending that she wasn't just plotting against Rachel days ago before this. So I have a hard time telling sometimes with Mickey whether she believes the stuff that she is saying or whether she is just a really, really good at convincing you that she does believe what she's saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I feel like it's you never really know what's going on in general, of like when she says stuff or when she doesn't mean it or when she is and trying to make up lies or not or other things that are fabricating the truth. It just there's a lot of things going on there.
Yeah, I think that I would really appreciate Mickey more if she would go in the DR and just fully admit to what she was doing and being like, "Yeah, I'm fully manipulating right now." Like I think that people get frustrated when house guests try to convince the audience that they should believe the BS that they're spewing. Like it's one thing to convince the house guests, like that's the game.
Yeah.
Do whatever you need to do to convince your fellow house guests to do whatever you want them to do. But to try to convince the audience of that as well is sometimes just kind of insulting our intelligence, that it's like we shouldn't believe our eyes of what we are seeing on the feeds.
Yeah, no, because especially the way that we see Big Brother, obviously you can watch live feeds and everything like that. Like it's not like you're only getting an edited episode, so it's even more so like when there are things that are being they're not going over our heads, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's I really think that Mickey, I think I was saying to somebody earlier just the other day that like if you combine Mickey, Morgan, and Vince, you get Vanessa Russo from season 17, who was like a legendary player of Big Brother, who was also somewhat frustrating to watch on the feed sometimes because she was very emotional, very like that part of her I think reminds me of Vince a bit and Morgan to a certain degree where it's just like the emotions, the crying, the constant, but like she's also was very, very good at what she did and had an amazing game sense. And I think that it's like all three of them have different qualities of that, but none of them have the game sense of Vanessa. So it's just frustrating watching. It's like all the emotion, all the frustration,
Mhm.
but none of the game sense. So it's just they're all running like chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah, that's a good description there.
Yeah, which is highly entertaining. Look, I am
Yeah.
enjoying this season. I think a lot of people are kind of frustrated with this season because it's like there's nobody to root for in terms of like somebody who's, well, besides Rachel, I guess, who's like actually really good at the game and seeing things for what they are. But I kind of love it because it's just pure chaos and pure mess. And that's what I watch Big Brother for. I don't necessarily watch it for the stellar gameplay. I kind of watch Survivor more for that, I think, because generally Survivor players just seem to be like bigger fans of the game, better strategists. And look, if we had live feeds for that, maybe we'd be just as frustrated with those players. But from what we see, from the only information we have, Survivor players tend to be very good on average, whereas Big Brother players oftentimes are very bad on average. But I love it as long as they're messy.
Yeah, that's true. We are getting good entertainment for this season, so can't complain too much.
We are. So, well, speaking of people who maybe are questionable at strategy, let's talk about Morgan. So Morgan goes to talk to Rachel after being nominated and admits that she would have put up Rachel if she had won HOH, which I guess respect the honesty?
Yeah. No, that was crazy for Morgan to say that while Rachel is HOH. Like, you really didn't need to do that, but okay, if you want to say that, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I love this move. Not a move that I would make personally, but I think what she probably was going for was rather than trying to BS Rachel and try to be like, I never would have put you up, that I think almost if you admit to it and just be like, yeah, good move. I would have, you got me before I got you. I guess that kind of just opens up the lines of communication where Rachel can be like, okay, she's being honest with me. Let's have an honest conversation now and try to mend fences. And look, it kind of, I don't know if this is what did it, but it does seem like this week in real time, they are on the same page. They have fully mended fences and they are back fully aligned together. And I think that I don't know whether that would have happened necessarily if Morgan had gone a different route and just tried to totally gaslight Rachel to think that she made a terrible move by putting her up.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I guess honesty sometimes can be better off in the situation, maybe because Rachel does appreciate that and knowing like, okay, yeah, like I am a threat. Like it would have been a good move for her. So that is true.
Yeah. You never know with Big Brother. Make one little different choice, and the whole sequence of events could have changed. So you never know. It seemed very questionable at the time. I still don't know if I would have done it, but hey, in the end, it seems to have worked out pretty well for Morgan. So Ashley also goes up to the HOH room to talk to Rachel, and she tries to convince her that Mickey was not coming for her. And she does this because Ashley is working with both Mickey and Rachel, and she would prefer for her allies to work together as well so that she doesn't have to pick a side. And this was a very frustrating conversation to watch in real time because I don't think it was clear whether Ashley really believed this. And now I think with seeing DRs and more context, I don't think Ashley really did believe this necessarily, but I think she really did want to continue working with Mickey and working with Rachel, and so I think that was her intention here. But it really was like, oh God, please don't convince Rachel that Mickey wasn't coming for her and that she made a mistake, and then when Rachel wins the veto, uses it on Mickey and makes a terrible mistake by nominating somebody who then was actually her ally, and Mickey gets off scot-free. So I think that was the fear going into it, but yeah, this was a frustrating conversation to watch in the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. I felt like it wasn't really clear what Ashley was believing, but now, I mean, I feel like also I don't like Mickey. Obviously, I want Rachel to go further, so I was more just like Ashley, like just let Rachel do what she wants to do, and like don't try to convince her that make something that's not even in the realm of being true.
Especially because when Mickey was HOH, she was venting about Ashley. Like she hated Ashley in that week, and a lot of people really turned against Ashley during that week. And so it was like, oh God, it's frustrating. It's hard to watch people defend others who have talked so poorly about them.
I know. Yeah, it's like I wish you could just see what's happening on that side, but they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And a funny moment during this conversation that was the toilet paper that Ashley had that,
Oh yeah.
sticking out of her pants that she'd had no idea was there. That was a very funny moment.
Yeah.
Well, then we get to Lauren and Will are chosen to play for Veto along with Rachel, Vince, Mickey, and Morgan. They play the OTEV competition, the famous OTEV, who this season is themed as the Hog Father. And we get it, it lasts longer than it did last season. Last season was only one round, OTEV famously. This season we got a full 3 rounds, so still not great, but
Yeah.
better. We're making progress.
No.
But yeah, Lauren ends up winning here, and yeah, she has now won an HOH and a veto.
Yeah, no, Lauren's actually showing up as a good competitor in these challenges here. I feel like overall, I mean, the Zoto was kind of a little bit underwhelming. I mean, we had 3 at least we had 3 rounds here. But it was funny to see all the goo and the cement and everything, like, afterwards, like, and them still in the diary room and, like, having stuff still in their hair. It's like, I guess they didn't even have time to shower in between these, so, like, they're just gonna talk right off after this, but, I was interested to see just, like, overall, like, what the questions would be too, so that was fun.
OTEV's always fun. I think I like that they did make it a little bit harder the last few years, where now sometimes the answers are 2 names rather than just 1, and I do think that makes it a lot harder, so, naturally, that will make it potentially not last as long. I think it's similar to what they've done with the wall that we also got in this past week, where they've made the walls so much harder in the last, maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 seasons than it used to be when it would potentially last like 2, 3, 4 hours. And they don't want it to last that long. It's a longer of a night for production. So I think they have tried ways to make it harder so it doesn't naturally last as long. But it is fun when we get more rounds of this or a longer wall to watch on feeds.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Lauren, I mean, if we learned anything from her HOH, she's not great at making decisions. That is not her strong suit. And she's torn, of course, on whether to use the veto on Vince or leave nominations the same. She initially leans towards not using it, but then the night before tells Rachel that she does want to save Vince, who is her number one. Rachel is upset just because of the short notice, but tells Lauren that she will make a big move and nominate Rylie in his place if she does end up using it. So Rachel also gets upset with Vince and Morgan because she feels like they're pressuring Lauren to use it. Lauren thinks that Rachel is bluffing here, and I don't know why she thinks Rachel's bluffing. Like, just stop here for a second. I don't know why Rachel would bluff about this.
Yeah, no,
and
there's no
r-
reason for her to.
yeah, so it feels weird that this is what Lauren would think. I mean, I I think in Lauren's mind, she probably thinks that Rachel is just saying whatever, I guess, to get her not to use it because Rachel doesn't want to have to nominate somebody else. And so she thinks Rachel is just saying like the worst thing that she thinks Lauren could hear, I guess.
Yeah, maybe I guess that could be what she'd be thinking, but I don't know, or just she thinks Rachel's a good player and that like she could just be lying to not have her use it in general, but I don't know. I didn't think that Rachel would be bluffing on this at all.
No, that is not the impression that I got
Yeah.
from Rachel. I do think, of course, Rachel doesn't want Lauren to use it, but
Mhm.
when Rachel said, I'm going to nominate Riley, I mean, yeah, she's gonna do that because if she doesn't do that, Lauren's just gonna go tell Riley, Rachel told me, threw out your name, and so then that's gonna upset Riley and Catherine, and then you don't even get to potentially get one of them out. Like that would just be really dumb of Rachel to
Yeah.
throw out a name and then not end up doing it. So it's both worst of both worlds. So I also now I've defended Rachel. I don't love that Rachel goes to Vincent Morgan and just gets really pissed at them that they felt like they were pressuring Lauren. Like, Lauren's not a child. Lauren might, be very young. She's what, 22? I think she just turned 23 like yesterday.
Mhm.
So I, but Lauren is an adult. Like, she can make her own decisions. And it felt like Rachel was talking to somebody's parents and like blaming them for their like 12-year-old child acting out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then Rachel's even convincing her to do something too.
Right,
It's not like
exactly.
she's not doing that at all to Lauren either. So, like, she's, I guess, going about it in maybe a less pressureful way in her mind, but like, it's still not like there's a bar there and it's like teetering. It's like not that far off. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And of course Vince is going to try to get the veto used on him, like anyone would. And so it didn't Vince didn't do anything in that case that crossed a line by any stretch of the imagination. So, on both sides, they're both trying to pressure Lauren to do what they want, and both of them are well within their rights to do that. And Lauren, unfortunately, is just somebody who doesn't do well with decision making, and so both sides have to put a lot more pressure on Lauren and know that they can possibly convince her to do something by using pressure, whereas someone else who's a little more decisive, they might not even try as hard because they know it's not even worth it necessarily.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then we get to the veto meeting, and Lauren does end up using it, and Rachel does go through with what she said. She did not bluff, and she blindsided Rylie here. So, do you think that that was a good move for Rachel, or should she have maybe gone with an easier decision, someone like Kelly?
No, I was very happy when she nominated Riley. I thought that was a great move. Also, I mean, in the house, they don't know all the stuff we know about Riley on the outside. So obviously, like everyone in America is like, yes, get Riley out. So I think that also was a good moment. I mean, obviously, in gameplay, like he did have a lot of good connections. Obviously, he was in a showmance, and like with that, like you never are gonna be able to beat that kind of person. Like if their showmance person is on the final two, like you're not gonna get a vote over that person. So that's also a good move on her part.
Yeah, I will say I was super happy in the moment, of course, because F Riley, to put it bluntly. I was really, really happy, but I wasn't 100% sure whether it was actually the right move for Rachel because Riley was just so loved in that house. And I didn't really think that she would have the votes to get rid of him. And so I thought, oh my God, Rachel is now making such an enemy out of Riley and Catherine and potentially a bunch of other people. Like Keanu was so upset with her about it. Kelly was so upset with about it. Kelly, I mean, would have been less upset if she nominated her. And so it just felt like Rachel was potentially really, really making her target like exponentially higher for the following week when if she had nominated Kelly, like, yeah, that would have really sucked for Dick Kelly out on your HOH. And I just don't think Rachel is the type of person who would be even willing to put that out there as an option because she wants to make sure that her HOH makes a mark. And so I wasn't necessarily shocked, but I was really worried about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, Catherine, after the meeting, is crying and super upset with Lauren for not using the veto, or for using the veto, excuse me. She was really pushing hard for Lauren not to use it. And something that I left off that is very important that the episode also left off is that Riley was actually pushing for Lauren to use the veto. And he was a very big part of, I believe, convincing Lauren to use it. And Catherine was trying to undo that and be like, no, don't use it. Because I think Catherine really thought there was a chance that Riley or her went up there. And Riley didn't think so. So he was like, no, go ahead and use it. I don't care. Whatever. Do what's best for you. And she did. And Riley got put up. And so Keanu, Kelly, and Lauren reassure Catherine that they will all vote for Riley to stay, no matter who's next to him. But meanwhile, Will, Ashley, and Mickey are up in the HOH room with Rachel, saying that they plan to vote him out if he doesn't win Blockbuster. So this really leaves Vince and Ava as the swing votes here. So Vince can promises his votes to both sides. I mean, he's Vince is gonna Vince, and Vince is gonna tell everybody what they want to hear, and he promises his votes to both to Morgan and Riley. And look, I think Vince puts himself in dangerous situations really often by telling everyone what they want to hear and can't can't withhold uphold both of those promises.
No, I mean, it's gonna be continued until he leaves, basically, because we're already seeing that again. But I feel like it was obviously he's gonna have to decide there of who he's gonna vote for because he can't not vote and he has to choose someone. But I feel like overall it's interesting that Riley was like, yeah, go ahead and use it, and then it put him up. But I mean, I don't know. obviously now we know the results here, but it was really seeming like it wasn't totally clear on what was going to happen, if it was going to be Riley going home, and it seemed so close even till the minute before it happened. So, yeah.
It was really back and forth close. Yeah, I mean, this was a very, very interesting week. And with Vincent Ava, it I truly didn't know what was going to happen. Like right up until that vote. I mean, we'll talk about it more when we get to the actual vote, but yeah, this was one of those weeks where I was like, wow, I really love the blockbuster because we never get moments like this in just a regular week of Big Brother for the first 25 seasons without the blockbuster when you know both the nominees starting on Monday. A lot of times it's just like a foregone conclusion, but when you have the blockbuster, I think a lot of times there's one scenario that the house just doesn't want to happen, which I think in this case was Morgan versus Vince. Or I'm sorry, Morgan versus Riley.
Mhm.
And I think Mickey was probably going to go home this week if she was left on the block. Whereas in a Morgan versus Rylie nomination, uh, there seemed to be a lot of potential for the vote to switch. Like we saw, like in that scenario, Vince and Ava are the swing, and we saw Ava in the DR during her vote. She was like, "I really can't vote for Mickey." Like, I think she very happily, easily would have voted for Mickey, but she didn't necessarily feel that same way about Morgan. And so I think it's just sorry, I think I got off track here, but what I was saying was that
It was relevant.
yeah, but what I was saying was that the scenario of Morgan versus Riley was the one that nobody wanted to happen. So it's kind of that scenario where you just kind of put it out of your side line of vision. Like it's like that's what's the chances that that's actually going to happen? That Mickey's going to win Blockbuster. So it's like I'm not going to really think about what I'm going to do in that situation because well, what like it's just going to be irrelevant and it's just going to make me go crazy for nothing. And so in that moment when then that actually does happen, it's like, "Oh my god, I didn't think about what I was even going to do here." And so then you just kind of like you're more likely to do the scary thing that you probably would have otherwise talked yourself out of if you had had 4 days to think about it.
Yeah. No, definitely. They're just like, "Oh, out of sight. We'll think about that later, like when it's actually relevant."
Yeah. So I think like Vince and Ava probably would have both talked themselves out of doing what they ended up doing, but because they really didn't have time to think about it, they just kind of were like, I
Mhm.
guess I'll just do it and deal with the consequences later because you just gotta have that adrenaline going. So we'll
Yeah.
get to that in a second more so, but it just like that moment, yeah, really this week made me really love the blockbuster even more than I already did. Anyways, back to starting Thursday's episode. Morgan walks in on Mickey and Catherine talking game using M&Ms. Now, this has been famously Morgan and Mickey's thing. The M&Ms using M&Ms to work out scenarios, votes, all this different stuff. They've been doing it for hours and hours on end the last few weeks. It's really become their thing that a lot of live feeders have been kind of annoyed by. But this seeing Mickey walking in, or Morgan walking in, and seeing Mickey doing this with Catherine now, really starting gets her gears turning and being like, "Ooh, I don't love seeing Mickey doing that with other people. This was our thing." And Morgan becomes a little jealous and starts to maybe think, "How much can I actually trust Mickey? Is she maybe closely aligning herself with other people who are not me?"
Yeah. No, I know. It definitely is like you see someone hanging out with someone that you thought you're closer with, and then like obviously this is different because it's a gameplay, but like it's just like you don't. It doesn't sit right.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just like one of those things in this house. Your paranoia is just
Yeah.
so high at all times that you can just convince yourself that any little thing, especially when you're already potentially thinking that in the back of your mind, and then you just see things that confirm that suspicion, and it's like, oh, yeah, there's just something in my gut. It's telling me that maybe I can't trust this person as much as I thought I could.
Yeah.
Then Ashley also starts to get upset with Mickey because Mickey publicly in the kitchen in front of Riley and Catherine makes a comment about how much Ashley's been up in Rachel's HOH room. And it's like, why are you saying this in front of other people and really like associating me with Rachel and like just putting a spotlight on our alliance and who we're hanging out with a lot. And this could be detrimental to my game. So then a lot of them, Rachel, Will, Morgan, Ashley, are all comparing notes now about Mickey because they're all kind of starting to feel the same way about her. And they, along with Vince, form an alliance called the Judges. What do your thoughts on this new alliance? Do you think that this, or let's just say in this moment when they first made it, did you think that this alliance had a chance to actually turn into something?
Yeah, this is the first time where I was actually like, okay, maybe maybe we'll see an alliance that actually sticks together this time this season, and I like the people in this alliance, so I hope it does work because I want it to work, but we'll have to see. I mean, so far so good seems like.
Yeah, I really like this alliance too. Look, I hate a steamroll, but when it's people I like, I can be hypocritical. I'm not again. I'm not above being hypocritical, so I would fully support a steamroll with these five. But I was a little nervous about Vince's inclusion here, just because Vince is so like wants to play the middle, doesn't want to commit to one alliance. That I was like, ooh, I hope they just don't trust Vince too much. I think he's good to have in their numbers, but I would really, really hope that the four of Rachel, Will, Morgan, and Ashley know not to give him too much information. Like, kind of have him as an outside part of their alliance just for the numbers and for the potential that, of course, he might win HOH, but not to fully feed him all the information that he could just run and use against them when need be.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel like Morgan would tell Vince the information.
Oh yeah,
She
I didn't have
Yeah.
too much faith that they would do that, but
Yeah.
I just hoped that they would.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think that would be best for them. But no,
Yep.
generally nobody this season is actually doing what's best for them. So,
No.
yeah. Well, then we get to the BB blockbuster. It is called Settle the Score. They have to roll a ball down a board, attempting to land it in the highest score zone. They have 2 minutes to keep going, and whoever locks in the highest score within that time wins. Now, this is very interesting because we see first that Morgan locks in her score. And then immediately after she does, Riley locks in his score, which is tied with Morgan's score. And you would think that in a tiebreaker, it would be whoever locked it in fastest. So I don't understand. Riley had a minute left. Why in the world would he lock in a score that is tied with somebody else's? And then we also see that Mickey, at the same time, has already scored something much higher than that. And she ends up winning here. But I still, like, I do not understand why Riley locked in his score when he did.
No, it made no sense. He also had that number before Morgan even got that,
Yeah.
and he just was standing there like nothing, like doing nothing there, just staring into space and didn't move. So like did he just like forget where he was? Like forget what was happening? Like I don't know, maybe too much adrenaline. Like I don't know what was happening in his mind.
Yeah, I didn't mind him when he was the only one who had that score.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily mind him just kind of like waiting back because it's possible that nobody could get a score higher than that, and then you just kind of
Yeah.
wait until the timer's about to go out, lock your score. If nobody can get one that's higher, you're good to go. So I didn't mind that so much, but then once Morgan got a tied score to that and locked it in, at that time Riley should have immediately taken that ball and kept trying for a higher score.
Yeah.
And even that was even before we then saw that Mickey had like 10 points higher and locked hers in. So I just didn't understand that at all, but who cares? Because Mickey ends up winning this blockbuster, which was, as I mentioned earlier, worst case scenario for a lot of people. So they all come down, and the chaos begins as Rachel is begging Ava to vote for Riley. And we see Ava and Vince have a little moment where he says, "What are you doing?" And Ava, it seemed like in the moment, and I'm not sure if in this tonight's episode whether this was a moment that we saw again. I can't remember, but it seemed like Ava told Vince, "I'm keeping Morgan." And
Yeah.
then Vince goes and tells Keanu that Riley told him days earlier, there or weeks earlier, I believe, that he would nominate Keanu if he won HOH. Now, Keanu in this moment doesn't believe it. We see later on that night that he was told this again and seemed to kind of sink in that it was probably true. But in this moment, he tells Keanu, like Keanu tells him, like, no, don't believe that. That's not true. But and I was really worried in that moment. I was like, "Oh my god, did Keanu just foil this? Is Vince gonna go back now?" But it seemed like I had this little shred of hope because I was like, if Vince was willing to tell Keanu this piece of information, why would he do that if he wasn't gonna then vote for Riley?
Yeah, I agree. If that it did feel like it would be Riley after that came out, but I don't know. I was still nervous about Ava, even though, like, obviously, like, even in her diary room or when she was voting, like, she's like, I really want to vote for Mickey, but she couldn't.
I This was like I couldn't even watch. Like I was just trying to distract myself and look at other things and I was like I am too nervous to watch this as we see. So like we see the first person because it seemed like Mickey, Vince, and Ava were the ones that I think some people were worried about. Mickey to a lesser degree, but like Vince and Ava in particular. So then we first see that Mickey votes for Riley. We're like, okay, she didn't ruin this. Because if she had voted for Morgan, then it just would have been over.
Mhm.
So there would have been no chance. So it's like, okay, we have a chance. Then we see after the commercial that Vince votes for Riley. So it's like, okay, now Ava. Just we need Ava to do it. And then Ava goes in there and just starts like debate. Like she's like, and it's like, oh my god. And like you could see like there's like a moment where her mouth kind of says, and it's like, no, no, no. Like just dying. And then she says, Riley. And it's like, oh my god. It actually happened. Riley's
Yeah,
evicted.
I know that moment was great. Everyone was just like on the edge of their seats, like, "Oh no, what's she gonna do?" And it worked out.
I truly couldn't even let myself get slightly excited for it in the days because it really didn't seem like this was going to happen. Like, it really, even the episode, the edit that they gave, it really felt like they were focusing so much on people distrusting Mickey and all of Mickey's mistakes and all this stuff. Like, they were really thinking that Mickey was going to go home this week, it seemed like, and they were telling that story. And so I just was like, yeah, I think they're probably right. Like they're probably right. And then it it seemed like wow, there's maybe a chance, and everything's just kind of slowly going right for it to be Riley, and then it is, and I'm just so thrilled for so many reasons because it's like we don't have to subject ourselves to Riley on the jury. We can get Catherine playing the game without Riley, which I think everyone was so excited for. To first just get her away from this guy, it just feels like really good for Catherine's mental health that she is away from him and has time to be away from him before going home and having her family tell her everything that she doesn't know and how America feels about him. And like I think it'll make it a little bit easier that she just doesn't go from like spending 70 something days with him, potentially 80 something days, and then having to, just be not only stripped away from him, but learn all this information.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I'm very happy that Catherine can now be without him in the house and actually play the game on her own and seeing how that does for her and just overall just hopefully she can get better. I mean not get her, but like build just like build up more of a gameplay, strategic mind stuff and not be worried about Riley.
Yeah, I was really excited to see Catherine without him, just like gameplay wise. I
Mhm.
was like, let's see what she has and to because I feel like she when she was away from him, it felt like she had some game sense. Like it seemed like okay, there's something here that he just isn't allowing her to talk to other people, to talk game without him. And so we just rarely got to see that in the last few weeks. And so now I was really excited to see what she has, what she can do when she's playing on her own and not for him.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, after the vote, Vince feels like the judges' alliance just used him for the vote, but they don't really care about him personally. So he talks with Keanu, and Keanu, of course, forgives Vince because Vince is a man and he's willing to forgive men. And he believes that Vince has his best interest at heart, so he was okay with him. But of course, he's not so forgiving of Rachel because Rachel is a woman. No. He is not so forgiving of Rachel, though, because Catherine tells Keanu that she would vote for Rachel if she makes the final two. And it's the edit is making it seem like, I will say, that this is really kind of making his gears turn and thinking maybe I shouldn't align myself so closely with Rachel and have this plan to get to the final two with Rachel because Rachel actually could beat me in the end. Whereas I think a lot of people in the house for so long were saying, or Rachel was really like saying this narrative that I can't, nobody's going to vote for a two-time winner. Whereas I think now people are saying, well, if everyone's dumb enough to let Rachel get to final two, I will vote for her.
Yeah. No, I mean, I it's always as Keanu goes back and forth so many times, it's, like, hard to keep up of, like, if he wants to work with Rachel, if he doesn't, and all of that. It's just frustrating to watch and hearing all that stuff because obviously, like, I mean, it seemed like they were good, and then now it's like, "Oh, never mind. I don't think I should be working with her." But, I mean, she is obviously a strong player, like, I would wanna vote for her if she made it to final 2 also.
Yeah, oh yeah, I would probably vote for her. Like if yeah, if Rachel is able to get to final two twice, yeah, I probably unless. Because I mean, look, there's always the Dan Giesling versus Ian of it all, where famously Dan gets to final two again after winning season 10. He again in season 14 makes it to final two against Ian. And a lot of the jury was very, very bitter towards Dan. And so they, out of spite, voted for Ian, who also deserved his win. I'm not saying that he didn't, but, very famously, like, they would admit to being bitter jurors, if you will. And I could potentially see that again with Rachel. I wouldn't doubt it that somebody like Keanu, Vince, like I could see them being bitter towards Rachel if they were to be in jury and she's in the final two. And I think that there's definitely a high chance of that, but I also think that if they're actually not bitter and looking at it just purely gameplay wise on paper, it is would be pretty incredible for Rachel to make it to final two again. And yeah, I would like to think that I would respect that and vote for her probably if she were to have actually made it that far. But the crazy thing is that this really isn't what at all convinced Keanu to go against Rachel. Like Keanu is just he he and Rachel's relationship is like this all season long. And I think that Keanu my theory is that I think that Keanu just doesn't I think that he doesn't want to ever be evicted and seem like he was being manipulated by Rachel. He doesn't want the audience to view him as somebody who was just like Rachel's pawn, Rachel's puppet, being manipulated by Rachel and then tossed out. Like I think he wants to be the one. He wants to make that moment. He wants to be the one to get out Rachel Riley. And he wants that to be like his defining moment from his time on Big Brother. And so I think that he's just never going to fully lock in with Rachel because I think that he would not be able to pass up the opportunity to be the one to take her out.
Yeah. No, for sure. And he definitely has those like I need to make a big move or like being a good competitor in him. And so I never trust his alliance with Rachel.
Yeah, it's I think they like each other on a personal level. I think especially Rachel really likes Keanu. And so I think that clouds her judgment at times.
Mm.
And because like I think a lot of these people in the house this season, she's older than them at this point, and like it's hard for her. Like she doesn't necessarily relate to Lauren or Catherine or a lot of these people. I think she just kind of doesn't necessarily have a lot in common with. Whereas I think she really just vibes well with Keanu, and so I think that they really want to work together, but then Keanu just never will get that out of his head. I think like he will always have something in him where he wants to have that moment, and he will not pass it up if given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, then we get to the HOH competition, which is the famous wall comp. It lasts a good. It lasted over an hour this time. Pretty good. I think about an hour, 12 minutes, something like that. So I was happy with that because last season it lasted, I believe, 32 minutes. So in total, which was the shortest ever. So I'll take more than double that. I was happy
Yeah.
with it.
No, it was good. They lasted really long for I mean, not really long, but they lasted pretty long.
Yeah, it's fun to watch because it's the
Yeah.
one competition that we get to watch on feeds these days. So I was happy. It was a fun watch this time, and we ends up that Vince and Kat are the last two standing, which were two very interesting options because of course Kat was just blindsided with her number one, her showmance leaving, and so she was out for revenge, and then Vince was interesting just because we kind of never know what Vince is going to do. He's very much playing the middle, trying to keep both sides happy. So I think people were kind of interested to see what potentially he might do as HOH, which we get to find out because Vince ends up winning this. So were you surprised that Vince won the wall? Who were you kind of going into the wall expecting to do well?
Yeah, I wasn't that surprised Vince won. I feel like anyone who's like kind of skinnier like is gonna be better just because you have less mass to like worry about like falling off of, falling into the ground there. But so I thought that Lauren would also do well in this, which she
Mm.
did pretty well here too. And Kat, and Vince, of course. I thought Kelly had a shot at it too. She was trying to be a little fancy there, stretching out, and then made her fall. But I had a feeling like it was kind of even across most, basically about like those four people. I thought,
Yeah, there's always somebody who gets a little too confident on the wall, tries to do some tricks and do that, and they sometimes doesn't work out for them. Like I remember during the pressure cooker competition in season six, Janelle just started like dancing and doing all this stuff, and then she ends up kind of accidentally taking her hand off the buzzer for a second, and she ends up getting eliminated. So it's dangerous to do that. But yeah, no, I was not Morgan had been spending this whole season talking about how she was going to do on the wall. That this was her comp. She was waiting for the wall. They're gonna have to pull her off of it, and then she's the third one out. So
yeah,
you just never know. Like I think a lot of people really think they're going to do well at it, and then aren't necessarily as good as they think they will be. But
yeah, Morgan was so sad when she fell off.
yeah, she was. She had an interesting fall too. And it seemed weird, like the way that she fell. It was like defied gravity. But yeah, so Vince ends up winning here, and then Morgan was right up to that HOH room with Vince. She has been spending a lot of time with him up there this week, and she tells him that she is actually fine with him nominating Mickey because she is hurt by the fact that Mickey has been talking about since the eviction that she was torn keeping her or Riley. She has been just talking about Riley and how, oh, I lost somebody who never would have nominated me, and this was such a bad week. And Morgan is hurt by this because she's like, this should have been a really easy decision for you. Like we're each other's number ones, and you're seeming like this was a tough decision for you. So she feels like Mickey was potentially just kind of using her for information and really doesn't want to work with her as closely anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. I feel like she was already feeling like she was on the outs with Mickey, so it would make sense for her not to be upset that she could go up.
Yeah, it really seems like these last since the judges has been formed and they were all like comparing information on Mickey that Morgan has been realizing that that's not somebody who I necessarily want as my number one. I think a lot Mickey was went from being in such an amazing position in the game to kind of this HOH-itis that she's been having that's had a lasting effect ever since then has really started to turn a lot of people off, and Mickey is now kind of an easy nom for a lot of people because it's kind of one of those people that not a lot of people's going to be upset if she goes. So my how the mighty have fallen. But
Right.
Vince wants to put Rachel on the block too, but Morgan really tries to talk him out of that and not putting up anyone from the Judges Alliance here. So Morgan has really been putting in a lot of work here these last few days to really keep the Judges Alliance safe, and that is I'm grateful for it as an audience member who is rooting for pretty much all of them.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like, I mean, at least we know with now the nominations that we saw that he didn't go with anyone from the judges. So that was good.
At least not yet.
Yeah.
Because Vince decides here that Ava will be his second nom, but he is torn on who to pick as his third. Rachel tells him to go with Kelly, but Keanu tries to swing him back to Rachel. Keanu again not prioritizing Rachel at all as much as she is prioritizing him by any means. But Vince tells Kelly that he's considering her. Kelly is hurt because he keeps burning her over and over again and leaving her out of conversations. Now, Kelly, the person who volunteered multiple times to go on the block, is now hurt that people have put her on the block.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's obviously been nominating her, or been offering herself up. Like, she can't be that upset. She's going up again. So I don't blame
Yeah,
Vince for that.
yeah, and I mean, she says that it's not so much that has hurt her, but it's so more like him leaving her out of conversations. I just think that when whether you volunteer or not, whatever, like you have proven yourself to be somebody who is very proud of the fact that you instigate a lot of situations, that you nominate yourself for the block, you do all these crazy things. Who is going to trust you? Like, I just think that's the problem is that, like, I get that she's hurt that people are kind of leaving her on the outs of a lot of alliances and conversations, but you have not proven yourself to be a trustworthy person to anyone. And so I think that just naturally those actions are going to have a reaction of people not including you in things.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So Vince does end up nominating Ava, Mickey, and Kelly as his three nominees. So that is how we end the episodes here. But let's quickly just get into a few feed spoilers. So if you are not caught up on the feeds, just fast forward a few minutes here. Mickey has won the POV, and it seems like Vince is was leaning towards nominating Catherine in her place. So Vince has been very unclear. Like he has not said to anybody really like for sure what he is planning on doing. But it really did seem like Morgan had done a lot of work to convince him over the last couple of days to nominate Catherine. But then just in the last like hour here, and again, this could have changed again since we've started recording. So apologies if this is out of date by the time you listen to this. But it seemed like so Rachel just earlier today was talking to Keanu and once again confiding way too much in him. She was telling him kind of trash talking Vince to Keanu and saying like I don't trust Vince. I'm going to nominate Vince if I win HOH. Like, she's really confiding in him a lot. And Keanu goes right back up to Vince and tells him everything. And so Vince now feels like he has an excuse, a reason to justify nominating Rachel. And so it really, really felt like he had, was talking to Keanu, talking to Kelly, and had kind of like been like, yeah, F it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna nominate Rachel. And we'll see because it's very, very possible that Morgan will go back up there later tonight or tomorrow and talk him out of it again. And maybe he'll kind of backtrack a bit and maybe he's just kind of in his feelings right now. But I think if the decision were to be made right this second, or at least last time I was watching feeds, it seemed like Rachel's the option. So I'm a little nervous right now.
I know, that's scary to think about because you never know what's gonna happen in the Big Brother house, especially with this cast, so I don't know what to think right now, but I'm hoping that it's not gonna be Rachel.
I really hope so too. I'm nervous, but she has the blockbuster. So even if she does end up getting nominated here, she certainly has a good chance to save herself. Rachel is, when her back's up against the wall, she tends to perform well. So I have a lot of faith in her to win that, even if she is. And look, she does have a lot of allies. She has Morgan. She has potentially Mickey, depending on how things go. And she Will. She has Ashley. Like, she has people who have her back. So I do think that there is a possibility that even if she is nominated on eviction night, she certainly could stay. So all hope is not lost, but I would definitely prefer someone like Catherine to go up there and just not have it be even an option that Rachel will go home this week.
Yes, agreed, but we'll have to wait to see.
Yes, we will. But that closes the book on Big Brother for this week. Now, let's get into some Challenge 41, Episode 4. Molly, take it away.
Yes, let's do it. So, since it has been a few weeks since we've covered the season so far, just would love to hear your thoughts more on the season, Michael, as a whole, as we've watched now 4 episodes of it.
I've really loved this season so far. I'm gonna say, like, it feels refreshed to me. Like, I
Mhm.
think the last few seasons of the challenge, we haven't had a lot of new players. Like, we had had this kind of period around like double agents, spies, lies, and allies, 36 and 37, where there were a lot of newbies coming in every season and then just kind of leaving us and getting a whole new batch of newbies coming in, and then like maybe a couple of them ended up sticking. So it felt like there was this period where there were a lot of new faces, but then in 39 we didn't have any brand new faces. 40 we didn't have any new faces at all. So this season felt refreshing that we had half newbies, half vets, and I think the new threats, if you will, have been really good so far. Like, I feel like been a big factor on the season. It feels like we are getting to know a lot of them pretty well, and I foresee a lot of them having a future as a challenger for, hopefully a while. Like, it seems like there are quite a few that I would like to see back, in the next few seasons. And I really hope that they do, because I feel like there's a lot of potential there. And yeah, I really liked this season. I think that so far it feels like a strong start to the season.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice that also we know a lot of those people who are those new threats, like coming from shows that we like watching. So that's been fun to watch because obviously, like, I don't always watch the challenge or I'm new to watching the challenge. So seeing people from Survivor and Big Brother and other shows that like I was excited to see them on the challenge. So they're still doing well there. So it's exciting to see that as the season is going on. But to get more specific into this episode, we started out by seeing how Olivia and the Brits are upset that their plan to make Bananas the hangnail didn't work because Naya was medically disqualified. So, previous week, we saw that Bananas was gonna probably be a hangnail because America it was gonna be America versus Naya, which was
Not great
sad if it
odds
would have
for, yeah,
been.
for
Yeah.
America.
So, what? What were you saying?
I was gonna say, not, yeah, they put America against somebody who probably, depending on the competition, would have had a pretty good chance of beating her there. So that was a little scary.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So then when they announced it, like they even had her like going into the arena, like it wasn't even like they told her beforehand. Like America was mentally preparing herself to leave, basically. And then they're like, never mind. Like actually, you don't have to do anything because Nia can't compete. So I mean, happy that America could stay, but that did mean that Bananas still was there without any disadvantage as well.
Yeah.
But so we saw that happen, but then now the this only the way that now Bananas could go home would mean that he has to lose the daily challenge or be selected by the winners to be up for the House vote. So that is a possibility, which we obviously see that foreshadowing. We did get that. But
Yeah,
um
but it didn't seem likely. Like, that was the
no.
thing, was that, okay, now a lot of things have to fall into place in order
Yeah.
for Bananas to potentially go home here. Because,
Mhm.
as he mentions later in the episode, Bananas has never come in last in a daily challenge before where he's automatically gone into elimination, which is crazy considering how many seasons Banana has done. Now, that's not necessarily the format of every season that the last place automatically goes into elimination. So it's certainly possible that he's come in last before and that just didn't mean anything because it was a season where that didn't matter. But still, I mean, that is the format for quite a few seasons that he's done. So the fact that that's never happened to him before in his entire challenge career is a pretty crazy stat.
Yeah. No, that actually is wild to think about because he's been so many seasons, and the fact that that's never happened, like, just shows how big of a threat he really is in in the challenge overall. So if you're that close to having him be at a disadvantage, like, everyone was getting so excited, and then to be stripped right away was like, like, do we have the chance? But
Yeah.
well, we did see that happen, because in this daily challenge, it was called a maze, and there were 120 containers that made a giant maze. And then within the maze, there were different Sudoku.
Sudoku.
I know Sudoku. I don't know. I always think it's Sudoku, like Sodoku, not Sudoku,
Oh.
like an
Everyone says it
extra O
wrong.
in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, there were Sudoku. Sorry, you can get that.
No, I'm leaving
Sudoku.
that in.
No, Sudoku. Sudoku. I got it. I even love Sudoku. I just can't say it right now.
I know, yeah.
Puzzles of different levels. And the harder puzzles were closer, while the easier puzzles are further in. So then the team who completes their puzzle and then gets back out, the fastest wins. And then the slowest teams, or the team that doesn't finish, or they finish the least of their puzzle before the 45-minute time is up, then they'll lose and they'll automatically be going into elimination. So I feel like a lot of these people were having trouble with doing these Sudoku. Got it. I got it on the first try that time. Puzzles.
Look at that growth.
Because yeah, thank you. But I feel like obviously, like, also in your pressured situation, like, it's probably harder, but I was looking at it like, okay, like, this seems pretty straightforward, like, they should know how to work these kind of puzzles out. But what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, especially considering the fact that they have had these types of puzzles on many a
Mm,
challenge previously. And so you would think that this is something they're practicing in the off season. And it just feels like a lot of these vets just don't even bother practicing this or other math skills. Like, you just time after time, season after season, these you hear get confessionals of these people being like, "Yeah, I can't do math. Like, that is not my strong suit." And you would think, like, the amount of time that they spend training physically, that they would
yeah,
also be doing puzzles and doing other like math skill training. I don't know, that is such an important, swimming, like all these other things that like come into play on these. It's like going into like, you know, Big Brother or Survivor and just not practicing like fire making or like how to, I don't know, on Big Brother how to train. Like, Adrian literally built a wall comp and for wall comp Wednesdays on his house at his house. Like, these people do train. And or it's let me say this, it's like Big Brother, going on Big Brother and not watching Big Brother. And we see
yeah,
how that has worked out with 90% of these people on this cast.
yeah,
So like, it's just, you have to train for the show that you're going on, and I think a lot of these vets especially just don't bother these days doing any training for that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that they still are so bad at this. But I will say I did like the aspect of this challenge that they could choose to go further into the maze and have an easier puzzle or a harder puzzle and not have to go through as much of the maze. Like, I think that type of choice is interesting. So I did like that aspect of the challenge.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what I would have chosen. I probably would have tried the medium
Mm.
level.
I
What
think
do
I
you
would do the
think?
easy. I think I would do the easy
Mhm.
one. I just think that unless you truly, like, just get lost in the maze and, like, can't find your way, I just feel like time-wise, doing an easier puzzle feels
Yeah.
like the move to get through it faster, because that feels like the part of it that would most likely take you the longest is doing the puzzle versus, like, winding your way through the maze.
That's true, and with that, like, it could save you a lot more time just getting an easier puzzle done
Yeah.
than having, like, 5 extra seconds of s walking or running to do, like
Right, exactly. Like, I feel like just the time that the the maze is probably taking you longer than the time to find the maze, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. But exciting outcome of this challenge was that bananas and Lekka came in last place. So that meant that bananas would automatically go to elimination, and because it was a guy's day, so that's extra reason for good news there. But then Ben and Michaela came in first place, so they're safe from elimination. And they also get to pick one team to send in for nominations for the jury to select who will go in against bananas. So, what were your thoughts here?
I was, shocked that bananas came in last. I mean, look, we just talked about this, the fact that that had never happened before. So, that was pretty surprising to me that bananas came in last, and you could just tell the relief on all the Olivia's alliance, the British alliance. All of them were like, "Oh my god, we don't even have to do anything. This worked out perfectly." Like,
Yeah.
the fact that bananas wasn't the hangnail had no impact because it just it fell into their laps. And so, yeah, that could not have worked out better for them. And I was pretty shocked, but not unhappy. Bananas is not my favorite challenger, and I know that he is for a lot of people. I mean, Bananas had just been going last week saying, "I am the challenge. This is my show, blah blah blah." And so I was pretty happy. I think it's fun to see someone who is that cocky, that arrogant, to be humbled a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. He needed that. So I'm glad that meant he could go into elimination here. But then Michaela and Ben had to discuss their options of who they want to nominate. So since they have obviously the new threat males, but also the vet males, Michaela wanted to nominate a vet male because she was thinking that leaving Gabe in the game would be smart since everyone was trying to gun after him since he was not very well liked, especially because of the way that he talked about Nia last week. So he'd always be an easy target. But then ultimately, she knows that Gabe that is going in regardless because she didn't really have anyone to convince, or she couldn't really convince those people to change their minds there. So she left the decision up to Ben. But what did you think here in terms of, do you think Michaela should have continued to fight for making a bigger move? I mean, I feel like it's also like we love Michaela because she always wants to do stuff like that, but then isn't always supported or has the
Mhm.
votes to do that. But at least we got to hear of some kind of gameplay before we had like this unanimous vote.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate Michaela, like, thinking through all the options, wanting to make a big move, not wanting to waste this power. But I do think that in this scenario, it just nope, you're not going to convince enough people to make any big move like that. You're just going to put a huge target on your back if you try to shake things up in that way where nobody wants you to do that. And Gabe, it's just so easy to just throw in anyone, literally anyone, and Gabe is going to get the votes because he's just such an easy name, because he is not only a rookie, but he's also somebody who not a lot of people, I guess, are close to socially because of, at least in part, and them not liking the way that he spoke about Nia last week. So he's an easy target, and he is someone who could beat Bananas. And so
Yeah.
for all the Brits and Olivia's alliance, like, they want that's the perfect person to throw in.
Yeah.
And so he just meets every criteria that they want in somebody. So it's like Yeah, he's somebody who maybe would be an easy target later on, but if he beats Bananas, he'll still be here. So you get all of your wishes. So I just don't think she was ever gonna convince anyone to not do that. And so yeah, I think it's smart to just tell Ben like, look, it's your choice. Do what you want with it. It does really doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure. So then we did see that then Ben and Michaela nominate Derek C and Izzy. Then the rest of the house then vote between Gabe and Derek, and it is unanimous, as I mentioned, for Gabe to compete against Bananas in elimination. So going into this, I wasn't really sure. Like I was like, maybe there was a chance that Gabe could win this. And so starting off, we saw the elimination is a hold 'em back. So each round, one player is a defensive player, and then one player is the offensive. And there's a wall in between them, and there's a rope, and they're trying to get three tokens in their bins, and they're attached to the rope. So you're trying to pull them back as they're trying to run to put these coins or tokens into their own bins. And then when they get three, then the time has stopped. So whoever has the fastest time then wins. Well, I don't know. Has this been the elimination before? Or is this a new thing?
I think this was new. I don't remember
Okay.
anything exactly like this. We see a lot like where it's similar kind of, not exactly this, like there's no wall in between them usually, but we do see it challenges where there's like two bins and both players are trying to get to touch their bin or get a ball into their
Yeah.
bin. And they're trying to pull each other different ways. Sometimes it's even three-way. I remember they had one like that where they were like, trying to pull the others closer to their side. So we've seen that before, but not necessarily this where it was they switched places and only one of them was trying to do it at a time and the other one's their only job is literally just to pull them back. So this is kind of similar, but not I've never seen it exactly in this format that I can remember. But I liked it.
Yeah, no, it was exciting to watch. Also, I felt like we were seeing so many of Johnny Bananas speaking of like, oh, like all the strategy, he was like tiring him out, and then like to see Gabe then come and like not even be tired when he was on the offensive side of things. So yeah, so Gabe ends up winning, and Bananas is eliminated. It wasn't even close. Like Gabe got it in like 2 minutes, and Bananas was like 11 minutes. So that was great. Bananas can be humbled for once.
Yeah.
And then this leaves Lekka as the hangnail next week. So obviously, is a big name for the challenge. So are you surprised to see him leave this early? And what do you think it means for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, it's rare that Bananas leaves this early. It actually weirdly feels reminiscent of one of the last times Banana left this early was War of the Worlds, which was the last season that we had that was very similar to this, where he was half rookies, half vets, and he was partnered with Morgan Willett, and he was left in week 2 or 3, I believe, that season. So it was very similar that he was an early exit that season as well, and he was also an early exit the following season, and then came back the year after that and ended up winning. So it's just you kind of just you never know. It's a series of events. I feel like usually if he can get past this kind of early few weeks, then he can kind of get his strong group together and make it all the way to close to the end. But he just kind of couldn't quite get his footing this season, and there was a large contingency of players who were really gunning for him, and they didn't even really end up having to do anything in the end because he put himself there, and they kind of worked together to put someone in who was able to easily beat him here. But I will say, as much as I get annoyed by Bananas, as much as I really don't love a lot of things that he stands for outside of the game, I appreciate the fact that he is one of the only vets from kind of his era that still comes around and is able to really keep up physically with these players and doesn't seem like he's just coming in to get a check and leave. And I feel like someone like CT, no offense, CT, he really clearly isn't doing any sort of like training outside of this. He's just kind of coming in these days and it feels like doing whatever, just kind of, but he's not as socially divisive, and so he is able to more easily make it far because people just kind of like him. So,
Yeah.
you know, Banana's kind of the opposite, where he's very controversial and a lot of people don't like him, but he is physically intimidating still. And so people are not necessarily wanting to go against him in an elimination. And so, you know, he makes it far a lot of times because of that. But no, I that is something that I appreciate about him, is that he really does still seemingly really care and try hard and want to make it far and win the game.
Yeah, that's for sure. He definitely is a competitive person, so he's not gonna like back down and stop competing and just trying to win at all the challenges and just training for it. So he's good at that. But
Yeah.
this one he couldn't finish, so
But it
or
will be
couldn't
interesting.
finish. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the rest of the season because he is somebody who sucks up a lot of airtime, and so I'm excited now to get to know some of the other players and have the dynamics shift because a lot of it centered around whether you were for or anti bananas. And so now that's not going to be the case, and we're going to get to see a lot of shifting dynamics, I'm sure, and it's going to be interesting because I think we have a good cast here. So I think that the show can definitely easily survive and still be very good this season without him there.
Yes, agreed. So if you're not watching it, you should tune in on MTV. It's great. And also this week we have the Love Island season 7 reunion. So that's exciting. We'll be talking about that next week, as well as Beyond the Villa updates, as we were getting more episodes there, and Big Brother, of course. So we'll chat with y'all again next week. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on social media at Let's Share Reality.
Bye, everyone.